Hi, everyone. You are listening to Radio Cherry Bombe, and I'm your host, Kerry Diamond, coming to you from Newsstand Studios at Rockefeller Center in the heart of New York City. Today's guests are Marjorie Taylor and Kendall Smith Franchini, the mother-daughter duo behind the Cook's Atelier, the popular culinary school in the Burgundy region of France. Marjorie and Kendall join me in just a minute to talk about their brand new cookbook, French at Heart, Recipes that Bring France Home, and the bold life choices that brought them all the way from Phoenix to France at very different stages in their lives. With Mother's Day right around the corner, I thought you'd enjoy their very inspiring story. Stay tuned for Marjorie and Kendall. Today's show is presented by the fashion brand Cartolina. It's finally springtime in my Brooklyn neighborhood, and I could not be happier. The cherry blossoms are almost at peak, the lilacs are out, and everything smells wonderful. To me, spring also means dress season. I can finally put my winter stuff in the back of my closet and think of warmer days ahead. That's why I've loved getting to know Cartolina, the fashion brand that was founded by Margaret Ann Nolan. Margaret started Cartolina as a tribute to her elegant and adventurous mother. The name Cartolina, which means postcard in Italian, perfectly sums up the brand, as it's a love letter to travel, style, and the memories we make along the way. Cartolina is dedicated to crafting timeless pieces that are made to last. You know the ones. Those cherished items that become closet staples. Every intricate stitch, luxe fabric, and unique detail is made with a focus on quality, durability, and lasting beauty. You can explore the world of Cartolina online at cartolinanantucket.com and see for yourself. I did a little browsing last night, and I have my eye on a few dresses. There's the Noor dress in peony pink. I love a maxi dress with sleeves, and as most of you know, I love the color pink. Then there's the Adriana dress, which is 100% cotton and comes in a beautiful print. It's the perfect airy dress for vacation or dressed up a bit for the work week when it is steamy here in New York City. Browse for yourself at cartolinanantucket.com or stop by their flagship boutique on Madison Avenue on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. You can also find Cartolina at the Centerpoint Boutique on Nantucket. A little housekeeping. We are hard at work on our summer issue, and it's our first ever power issue. It will be out this June, and it's a celebration of folks using their power for good and doing important, interesting, and impactful work. To subscribe and get our 4 annual issues delivered straight to your door, visit cherrybombe.com. Now, let's check in with today's guests. Marjorie, Kendall, welcome to Radio Cherry Bombe.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Tell everybody what brings you to New York.
Well, we're celebrating our second cookbook, French at Heart, which we're very excited about. And we're just here kind of celebrating that.
And French at Heart as opposed to Wild at Heart.
It is a little wild in some ways.
It feels wild more oftentimes than not.
Marjorie, tell us about the title.
Oh, that was so funny because as we were working with the team trying to, produce the book, do this stuff, we just kept thinking, what is the title? What should this book be called? And all of a sudden, actually, it was Kendall who came up with a name, and she's like, it's obvious.
Yeah.
It should be French at Heart.
You know how you go through and you just have a list of like 100 different titles. It could be this, it could be that. And none of them, we're working out. We're like, this isn't working. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, of course, French at Heart, because that's kind of how we feel all the time, doing what we do, living where we live. And so we thought it was the perfect fit. And it just, when you know, you know.
We all thought it was the perfect title. When the book showed up at the office, we were like, oh my gosh, that makes complete sense. French at Heart is your second cookbook.
Yes.
We all absolutely adore your first one, The
Thank
Cook's
you.
Atelier. Tell us what's different about the new book.
Well, this book kind of dives a little bit deeper into family life, I think, a little bit more. It's a little more intimate than the first book. The first book was really based on more of the school, how we teach, certain techniques and foundations and things that we think every home cook needs to know how to do. And this book really kind of showcases a little bit more about the story, about how we arrived in Beaune, why we wanted to move to France, kind of the method to our madness of why we do the things we do too. And also to try to explain to others how you can kind of bring a little bit of that into your own life every day. So it's really kind of just it's a nice little ode to living in Beaune and Burgundy, and it's fun.
We wanted the second book to be very approachable to people because it looks like one thing on pretty Instagram and all that stuff, but it's really just a family doing what they love and creating a business around that. So we wanted to kind of open that or, remove the curtain so people could see a little bit more of that too.
Was it hard to write?
It was hard to kind of wrap your head around it when you're making it, but not really, no.
We always
No.
have a lot to say.
It's actually hard to, keep it condensed and figure out, focus on this and, yeah.
I got the sense that it was something that just flowed right out of both of you.
It did. I mean, I think there are certain parts in the book that we really knew we wanted to hit, home and really wanted to focus on. We managed to figure that out early on, which is good.
I thought it was interesting that so much of it is about intuitive cooking, essentially, whereas the first book is recipes that you are meant to follow. And this book is sort of about letting go. Is that safe to say?
Yes, I think that's a good way to say it, because the idea around the first book is you have to have some core foundations and stuff if you want to be a better cook. But the idea is once you've mastered that, you can do anything. And I think it was really important for us to make it where it was not intimidating for somebody who doesn't cook at all, but somebody who really likes French cooking, or maybe somebody who's more versed at it. But there's something there for everybody.
Yeah, and I also think that's kind of in a way, all of it is kind of based on mindset. And, French cooks, even at home, French people at home, it is a lot of intuitive cooking, and you don't necessarily need a recipe nearby, and it's not always about following the recipe to a T. So I think that was a big part of it, too.
You definitely stress the importance of beautiful ingredients and produce.
Absolutely.
In the book.
That's fundamental, and I think just what we've taken away from living in France, too, is the beauty of the ingredients. I mean, that's the most fundamental thing. Even anywhere you live, that's the most important thing to focus on, is finding good ingredients, focusing on seasonality if you can. That's all. If you do that, your cooking is just going to be better and elevated anyways.
Where's a good place to start with the new book?
Oh, gosh, there's so many. We always say to the class, if you take one recipe, learn how to make a proper gougere, because those are so fun and they're so easy and very French. They're very French, and they look hard, and everybody loves them. But once you have that, you can make a multitude of other things using that.
Yeah.
That's a favorite for sure.
And it's nice, too, because something like the gougere, which in this book, it's a variation on the gougere, spicy cheese puffs, which are great because it's always an icebreaker. It's fun to get other people involved in doing it, too. It's the beginning of a meal if you want to serve it as an apéro, which is really fun, too. So it's kind of a nice, introductory recipe, I think.
Do you greet people at the culinary school with gougere and champagne, or did I read that?
No, we make them work for it first. We greet them with really great coffee, and we mingle and introduce ourselves, and then we head upstairs to the kitchen. But that is always the first recipe that we make, because it's kind of fun, because the 10 people there, they don't know each other necessarily either, and we don't know what level of what cook they are, how they cook. And it's kind of fun because, like Kendall said, it's very fun, just ice-breaking. Get in there, let's have some fun. And so it's always big.
Oh, I must have been reading about someone who had visited, and they said something about being greeted with the gougere and a glass of champagne. And I was like, I want to be greeted that way every day.
Yes, it's a good habit to have.
It is.
We'll be right back with today's guests. Did you know that the Cherry Bombe Podcast Network has the #1 baking podcast in the U.S.? We do, and it's called She's My Cherry Pie. Each Saturday, baker, cookbook author, and recipe developer Jessie Sheehan talks to the sweetest bakers and pastry chefs around and takes a deep dive into their signature bakes. If you've been wanting to level up your baking skills, this show is for you. Tune in for expert tips and tricks from guests like Claudia Fleming, Natasha Pikowitz, Zoe Francois, Christina Tosi, and so many more. Find She's My Cherry Pie on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget, subscribe so you never miss an episode. Marjorie, folks might not realize you had a successful career in Phoenix, of all places.
Yes.
Like Phoenix to Paris does not seem like the normal trajectory.
Well, and then you throw in Arizona, it's a really long ways away, which we apologize for that. But no, actually it started out for me, having been a single mom with Kendall, and you do a lot of jobs, put food on the table, but I always had this thing about food. And I remember Kendall as a little kid would say, I just remember used to say you just want to feed people. So as Kendall got older and I had more time, I really put a lot of emphasis on learning to cook. And for me, I really wanted it to be classic French cooking.
Where had that seed been planted along the way?
I'm not really sure. I think, well, first of all, I'm an entrepreneur. And people ask that all the time. So for me, it was important to figure out, okay, now I have a chance to be an entrepreneur. What do I want to do that I'm going to love doing every single day? And for me, that was cooking. And it was important for me because I think French cooking, maybe at the time, maybe more so. But I think that I'm like, if you know how to cook like a French person, you can do anything. So I really wanted to learn all the classic techniques.
Obviously, you'd been cooking for a long time because you were feeding your child.
Yes.
But you didn't really learn how to properly cook until your late 20s, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and it was fun. So then with our story, what happened is then Kendall, for some reason,
Totally
kind of
enamored
evolved.
with France in a weird way. I don't know why. It's not a hotbed, Arizona for anything French. So, but I did have a really good teacher in high school, a French teacher, that totally made it seem, okay, this is possible. This is something that, I'm not just making up in my head. She did that. I could maybe do it too.
Do you remember your teacher's name?
Yes, Miss Moline. Love her to death. She's great. After that, we did a high school trip to Paris, and I was hooked. So at that point, she knew, okay, yeah.
Yeah. Just had Kendall, obviously you're paying attention to these clues. And I thought, oh dear, she's going to figure out how to live in France. She's going to figure it out. So then, of course, after university and all of that, then Kendall makes her move to France. Then the job is to figure out how to make it stick because it's not easy to move to France. So
figured out how to be a student in France. That's, one of the easiest ways to do it. And was able to do some studying abroad in French and art history. That was kind of my angle because I've been always into culture and the language and that kind of thing. Then found myself working in Paris. And so I was interning at Christie's auction house, and that was great, doing a little wine bar job at the side, and then really got into wine. So, and like, Mom, I really want to figure out wine. And she's like, okay.
Then I get the call. I'm from Arizona. My child is working at Christie's in Paris, and I'm just so proud of her. And then I get the call that says, Mom, I really want to study viticulture. And I'm like, well, that sounds great. Why not? Because that's kind of my mindset. Next photo I get, she's on a tractor. And I'm like, oh, dear, this will be fine. So that's how we found Bombe, actually, because that's where Kendall went to viticulture school.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
what was the school?
It's the CFPPA. So it's basically a program that any winemaker in the region has to go to be certified to be actually a wine producer. It was a really intensive program, all in French, very intense, but really interesting.
So you were at Christie's. What were you doing for Christie's?
I was interning, really. So,
But it was
doing
fun.
anything and everything that they needed. So, yeah.
Okay.
It was interesting. It was an interesting experience, but it wasn't really well paid, so that only lasts for so long.
So you're doing the wine bar at night. I remember when I used to go to Paris for work all the time, the city, it seemed like overnight fell in love with natural wine. Was that going on when you were there working in the wine bar?
It was in the, let's say, 2005, 2006. So it was maybe kind of on the cusp of that, not really.
So you were more
getting
into the
into it.
traditional wine world. Okay,
Yeah.
so you go to school. Meanwhile, back in Phoenix, you've opened a restaurant.
Yes.
So you didn't just learn how to cook.
No, after
For real?
once Kendall was grown and she was off to college, I opened up a restaurant, very small, 20-seat restaurant, which also a couple nights a week did cooking classes because I've always loved the teaching aspect of it. And it was fun, and we did that for a while, and it was a kind of a unique concept, at least I thought it was at the time, where I was very determined I didn't want to have any debt. I didn't want to have the menu too big. And I said, I only want to cook what I want to cook, and I want it to be very prefixed. At the time, my mentor, my whole person that I was in love with was Alice Waters, of course, during my time period there. And so I kind of mimicked that idea in this little tiny place, in of all places, Phoenix. I mean, I had a little garden in the back. It was ridiculous. Nothing grows there. But we were having fun at it. And what's fun about our story is that when Kendall went off to college, she would come work with me in the summer. So we've been doing something similar forever. Then it was about 2007. Kendall had gotten settled in there, and she was working at Kermit Lynch. And she called me and she said, Mom, you're going to love this town. You've got to come and see this. And she goes, I think you need to move here. And I'm thinking,
It's
oh, dear,
time.
how in the world am I going to figure this out?
And you
she's-
still had the restaurant.
No.
Oh.
Well, I sort of did, but
Well,
I
let's
was,
go back because you said a few interesting things,
Yes.
and we have a lot of restaurateurs out there in the listening audience. You said it was a 20-seat restaurant. What was the name of the restaurant?
It was called Ruby Beet Gourmet.
Ruby
Beet, as in
Ruby
vegetable.
Beet. Oh, I love it. Okay,
Thank
Ruby
you.
Beet Gourmet. And you said you did not want to go into debt.
Yeah.
Which is great advice for everyone, for
Yeah.
everything.
Well, and the idea was the act of the joy of cooking. It was the part I liked, and at the time I had a business partner. It was something, we no major business plan, no real thought out plan of action here, no investors. It's just us. Let's do this. It'll be fun. So it started out where we'd sit outside on the porch and shell peas, drink wine, and whoever showed up got to have dinner. It was ridiculous.
It sounds like a TV show, not a business.
I do not. It kind of was. That's a good way to think of it. But it was a good life experience. Nobody got killed, so it ended up okay. But it was certainly not ideal. And so
it seems like a movie, doesn't it? Yeah.
A lot of this
It's
seems
so
like
funny.
a movie.
Oh my gosh. Did you lose money? Did you make money?
No, we made money, and
This was how you made a living.
Yeah. And it was fine. It wasn't anything over the top, but more importantly, I was having fun doing it.
Okay.
And
And did you find an audience? Because you had so many rules. It was prefix. You wanted to cook what you wanted to cook.
At the time.
You found your people.
We found our people. And one fun thing, we're very good friends with Chris Bianco at the time.
The famous pizza god.
The famous pizza god, which we love dearly. He's such a good guy. So it was kind of funny because, of course, he always had so many spillover people that couldn't get in. Then they would kind of wander over to us. So it was a good, fun thing. So that's sort of how that story went. But
that's a good business plan.
yeah, fast forward a
Let
little
me
bit.
open near somebody really popular where nobody can get in.
Yeah.
What did you do as a living before you opened the restaurant?
My goodness, anything possible. You know, lots of administrative work. None of it which I enjoyed at all. Which was part of me saying, as soon as Kendall gets a little bigger, I'm going to figure this out. So that's why I gave a lot of consideration. What is that going to be? And so that's how I got into food.
So you went to La Varenne at
I
some
did. I was
point.
just going to say that. That's kind of a fun story, and I love her to death. She's
Tell
amazing.
folks what La Varenne is and who Anne is.
Well, Anne Willen, the proprietor of La Varenne in Joigny, just outside of Burgundy. At this time, Kendall's in college, and I'm trying to think, how am I going to even figure out anything, let alone she hasn't even told me I'm moving to France yet. And so I really wanted to figure out a way to be in France because Kendall was in Paris at that time. I thought that would be fun. So I first wrote Anne and said, "Hi, Anne," nice little cover letter. She does, or did at the time. You would have a stage there. And at this time, I'm older. I've already had a restaurant. I've already done stuff. But I don't have any paperwork that says I really went to culinary school. So I'm like, well, maybe Anne, that would be fun. Because I didn't have enough confidence in myself at the time. I thought I needed the paperwork, which is ridiculous. But at any rate, that was a fun adventure. First time she said, "No, you're too old." And I'm like, oh, gee.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, true story. But again, this was a long time ago. So then second time I convinced her, I promise, I'm not a prima donna. I will do whatever you want. I just want to have the life experience. So she said yes. So that was a big, exciting thing. About that time, I pack up. I think I'm going for like 3 months, which is the typical thing, but I ended up staying longer than that, which was good for us because at this point, Kendall's in Paris, and the first time we're back on the same, continent. So we met a lot and talked a lot, brainstormed a lot. How can we figure out how we can get Mom here, me? And so we just kept obsessing over everything. And about that time, I don't remember all the names, but there were a bunch of pop-up restaurants done by Americans, like Daniel Rose was doing all that stuff, Spring. And I'm like, wow, this is really neat. Why don't we do Hidden Kitchen was in somebody's apartment in Paris. I'm like, that sounds fun. I could do that. So we kind of have brought together the original idea of the Cook's Atelier around that. And we laugh about it all the time because it was not a formal plan at all. I get to France, I'm thinking to myself, I am either completely mad or I'm having a midlife crisis. This is going to be fine.
Could be both.
Yes. I'm like, it's a sabbatical. I'm going to give myself a year, and if we could figure it out, I can stay. If we can't figure it out, I'll have to figure out the next plan.
Did Anne know what you were up to?
No.
You did not want to tell her?
No.
And that was after you were done with Anne, too.
Yeah, because I went back after Anne. Yeah, I knew that I had to come back. So I had to come back to the States and figure out, all right, you can't just stay here. That doesn't work. You have to go. You have to get the paperwork, all this kind of stuff. So I initially went, I had a visitor visa, which was great. I got to stay for a year, but I couldn't work. So, and I had just sold my house in Phoenix, and I was trying to figure out, all right, what are we doing? We're brainstorming at this time once I finally get back. And I'm like, I'm a cook. I need a stove. I need something. So actually, Kendall and Kendall's husband, Laurent, they were dating at the time, and
Good guy,
he's a good guy.
He
puts
deals
up
with both
me.
of us. Yeah.
And we're walking down the street in Beaune, and there's an apartment. I can see guys painting in there. And I'm like, that's going to go for rent. That little apartment, it's adorable, cute street. I said, that's going to be, maybe I could do a pop-up in there. That could be fun. Of course, Laurent, being the nice French guy that he is, he figures out how to get a hold of the guy. There's no multiple listing or anything. And we get into the apartment, and I'm like, this would be perfect. So even on the website, I always like to say, pour yourself a glass of Burgundy and look down, and you can see the whole evolution of the business, which is hysterical. There's one, a little video, short film where Kendall's in there. She's got Luke, who's now 14, in a baby Bjorn, and we're in the kitchen cooking. I mean, it's crazy stuff. You can't make it up.
I want to go back to La Varenne for 1 second.
Oh, yeah.
How much older were you than the other students?
Oh, gosh, she would hire the kids in their maybe 20s, maybe 25.
How old were you at the time?
I felt like, how old was I? I was probably 44, 42, something. I was in my 40s.
What did you learn while you were there?
Well, I already
Because you already knew how to cook.
Yeah,
You
I
had
already
a
knew how to
restaurant.
cook. I already knew how to cook. But it was fun to see the program, how she ran the program, how she did that, what was behind the scenes of doing something like that. That's why I was there. I really wanted to observe and see how that part worked.
So, Kendall, you and your mom, you had no business plan.
No,
At
not
all.
at all. No.
And were you two close growing up?
It's kind of like we're two peas in the pod. I mean, growing up with a single mom, didn't have a dad around, that kind of thing. We kind of helped each other out, and we kind of relied on each other.
And supported each other.
And supported each other.
So that must have been a lot for you to go from Phoenix to France.
It was a lot, but I think it was normal. I mean, obviously, you're going to go explore things and go try things out. And my mom was always really good at basically saying you can do whatever you want. You can try anything you want to do. So I was never afraid to try something, which is good.
And you weren't heartbroken back home in Phoenix?
Well, it was the right thing for her. That's what you're supposed to do as mom. You're supposed to say, fly, so that was really great. But it was fun because after all these years of doing it, I always like to say Kendall's dream was big enough. She let me come with her.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay,
Special.
so no business plan. How did they react to you two down there?
It's an interesting question because we get that a lot. Really nice people. Burgundy is very international. It's very small. It's traditional yet international at the same time. It's very strange. And I think at first, we started to explore the market a lot because our whole goal was to really get involved with the artisan food producers. That was our whole mantra. And we knew because Burgundy is such a great wine region, it has really great farmers too. And so we kind of started off with that a little bit on the Saturday market. And they'd kind of get to know us, not really knowing why we were here, if we were here full time, what was going on, what we were doing. And then we started the classes little by little in the apartment. And we started bringing people, and then people were catching on like, okay, they've got people in tow. What's happening? We've got full market baskets. Everyone has, ingredients. But they didn't know where we were going, like what we were doing with all these people and all this food. Just as the years went on and on and on, and then they started figuring it out. We opened the shop, and so it was kind of, I guess, awakening to really what the Cook's Atelier was. But everyone, just in short, was really supportive and really nice. It's a really great community.
One of these days I'm going to visit and come to
You need
cooking
to.
class.
You should.
I know.
You should come.
I always have FOMO when I see like you had Rebecca Pepler there,
Yeah,
and
it's
so many people
It's a great
we love.
place.
Mhm.
Any season is beautiful.
What is the town like? How big a town is it?
It's got about 25,000 people full time.
It's a great location. It's about 2.5 hours south of Paris, and you're in between Dijon and Lyon. But it's a very central location, which is really nice about Burgundy. So you could be pretty much anywhere very quickly. So it's a good base.
And how's your French now, Marjorie?
It's still horrible.
Oh, but you get by.
Well, obviously, I'm not shy. And the point of the matter is I always like to say I speak food French and wine French. So I'm fine.
Oh my God, I might steal that. I speak food French. Exactly. I would like my food French to be even better, though. Okay, so you decide you're going to do this. You start teaching classes up in the apartment. How does it grow and become a more full-fledged business?
Well, obviously, it kind of started off as something where let's make sure
I don't get deported.
My mom doesn't get deported throughout all of this. She's got to have a job here. And at the time, I was working at Kermit Lynch. Kermit Lynch is the wine importer in America. Really great company. So I was lucky to have a little short experience working there. And I would help my mom on Saturdays during market day. And we would do the cooking class together. It just started kind of snowballing. She ended up doing the first website. This is before Instagram, before there was iWeb. That's how I think the first...
I did it. I can't turn off the flashlight. My grandson has to swipe.
It was,
It's ridiculous.
But it worked. And, during the blogging days and all that kind of stuff, it just started kind of snowballing and word of mouth, and people would tell their friends, and then people would come back. And so it just kind of carried on, and we did that for 5 years.
We've never advertised, ever, which is kind of funny. But what happened after 5 years is Kendall's husband, Laurent, said, this is really adorable and really great, but maybe you need a shop.
Oh, that was his idea.
Yeah.
Well, and we had advice from friends who are like, you guys kind of are growing out of this. And but we didn't want to lose that, that little feeling that we created, the magical little spot. So we were kind of hesitant, and it was a big jump. And we're like, are we ready for this? Should we do this?
What if everybody stops coming or they don't cook, But as soon as we saw the building, we're like, you have to say yes. Because if you don't say yes, you're going to regret it for the rest of your life. So we jumped into that project too.
Right.
So the building where the store is also where the cooking classes are?
Yes.
Okay. And you have the whole building?
Yes.
And it was at that point then that Laurent decided to join the team, which was great too, because when we saw the building, it's perfectly compartmentalized. So you've got a space for the kitchen, the dining room, and then you have the shop, which is on the ground floor. And we're like, well, what are we going to do with the ground floor? And Laurent's like, well, I'll do it. I can do a culinary job. He's originally in tourism, and I always say he's a very friendly Frenchman. So
Yes.
How did you two meet?
through mutual friends in Paris.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't the right time, but destiny intervened, and eventually we ended up finally getting together. So yeah, that's when it kind of became that small family business that it is today. So
And now you have 3 little ones, and you have, well, not so little. Luke is 14.
He's going to be 14.
And you have 3 grandchildren. How old is the youngest?
6.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how has it been? I know things are different for working families over in France than here in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
How has the experience been being a working mom over there?
Well, I think it's just like anyone, any working mom, anywhere. It's kind of the same feel. It's tricky. I mean, the kids get a lot of time off from school, so usually during, times when we're really busy. So it's often a juggling act. But what's really great about it, they've just grown up there. After school, they come, get their hot chocolate, and
They bring their
say hi to the
friends.
clients,
Yeah.
bring their friends. Sometimes Manon, likes to help during the cooking classes. So it's good. It's good.
And how about for you being around your grandchildren as they
It's
grow
amazing. Well, again, we never in our wildest dreams ever thought it would have turned into this. But the part I love the most, now that I'm the grandma, is the fact that it's been this small family business to watch it grow, watch it flourish, and everybody's involved. Well, I always like to say we're not a pyramid, we're a triangle, and we figure it out. Everybody has their place. We come back together, circle in. The big kids do a lot of help just because we want to expose them to that too. But I think it's really great too to do it as a family, and that, they know we're all doing it together. They see us work and build it together, and I think it's good for the kids. I'm very proud of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you two become better business people through this process?
I think so. I think when you obviously go through that, you do get better at, certain things in certain areas. And I think along the years, we've figured out what everyone is really good at.
Yeah.
We didn't go into it knowing exactly what our roles would be completely. But, after 17 years now, this is our 17th year. It's amazing. Yeah.
It's scary when you say that out loud.
I know.
You did look shocked, Marjorie. How do you divide what everybody does? What do you do, Kendall, versus what you do, Marjorie?
Well, I basically now, to my best ability, do a lot of the social media, website stuff. Marge does a lot of the class scheduling, that kind of thing, emails back and forth with clients. And then for the cooking classes, we're both
in there together, which is fun.
Yeah.
And
we do the shopping together and all that stuff. And then it's just during the cooking class, we're all in it together.
And Laurent's in charge of all the red tape, and he works the culinary boutique and all that stuff. So it's a lot. It's a lot. And it's gotten bigger than we ever thought. So it requires more management than, when we were in the little apartment.
Yeah.
Do you have other instructors?
No.
We don't have it.
It's
no.
still just the two of you.
It's just us.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm assuming everyone who's listening wants to come and take a class because I know I do and the whole Cherry Bombe team wants to. What do you offer? Can you come for a day? Do you come for a week? What's on offer?
What's on offer? Well, our favorite offering, which we love to teach, to begin with that, we do what we call a seasonal Burgundy masterclass program, which is a 5-day program. And it starts Monday, goes Monday through Friday. First 4 days are at the boutique. And then the 5th day, we go to the Woodland House, which is AKA Kendall and Laurent's house, where they get to see the chickens and the garden and all this stuff that's evolved around that. And then we do the 1-day program during the weeks that we don't do the 5-day program.
Which are really fun, too. It's great to be able to offer both. So you 1-day program is nice for people who are kind of just passing through and get a little taste of it. And then the 5-day really is immersive and gets really into the seasonal and aspect of cooking.
And if you come for the 5-day, where do you stay?
We're very fortunate in Bombe that we have a lot of very nice hotels. We also have a lot of Airbnb type apartment rentals. So we kind of recommend things and people choose their lodging.
And is this year round?
Basically, we start April and we go through November. Beaune is a sleepy little town in winter, so it's funny because when we first moved, we're like, what's happening? Where are all the people? It took a long time to get used to that, but now we actually really enjoy it because it's downtime a little bit. It's nice to have that. So it's basically April through November.
Okay. And how far in advance can people, everyone listening is going to be like, is Kerry just booking her trip? Is she just using this episode as an excuse to book her trip? How far in advance do you have to book?
Well, what's currently happened, which this is the first year this has ever happened, but super exciting. We were fully booked for 2025 in January. Then we added 2 new programs, and those quickly booked within 2 weeks. So 2025
Congratulations.
is
That's amazing.
fully booked. And so we're taking reservations right now for 2026.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible.
Which is good.
And do you have a fun little network with people who do similar things? Like, are you pals with Dorina, who's at Ballymaloe?
You know, we've
Cookery
never,
school?
we want to go. We're thinking about going in August, and we know you've been.
Yeah.
We should ask you. Yeah.
Yeah.
We definitely want to go.
It's
for
so
sure.
beautiful in August.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I bet it is.
The
I bet it
hydrangeas
is.
are so
see.
spectacular
Oh.
in August. Yeah, I always wondered, like, are these people all friends, who do
I
these
think
things?
we know of each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we haven't always met each other, but yeah, we definitely know each other and kind of recommend each other here and there. And yeah.
Yeah.
And who are the students? All ages?
All ages,
From all over?
international. They come from everywhere, which is amazing.
More than just America?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We have a lot of Australians, Canadians. We have people this year booked from Belgium. We have Saudi Arabia,
A little bit everywhere.
They're
It's
everywhere.
very cool. And the thing is, you never know who you're going to join, the program with, which is all part of the fun too. So it's kind of like everyone's coming together from different backgrounds, different life experiences, but you're coming together with a common goal of really enjoying a nice time around food and wine, and it's fun.
I want to talk about your aesthetic because anyone who enjoys your books and who looks at your social media and your website is immediately struck by just how beautiful everything is when you see the pictures of the store and the kitchens. Even just the two of you walking to the farmer's market with those gorgeous baskets. I mean, you see the baskets and you're like, oh, I need one of those for my farmer's market trek. Where does that come from?
It just developed. It's kind of funny because my mom was quite the collector. Kendall's much more of a minimalist, but I've always sort of been a little bit, well, if you need one jam pot, why not have 10? It's there, let's do it. So I've been kind of that sort of personality forever. And when Kendall was a kid, she would hate to go to the brocants and stuff like that.
It's a kid thing.
It's a kid thing. But as she got older, we kind of got into doing that together. It's sort of the things that I've collected over the years sort of found their place where they were supposed to be. And then being in France, that's everywhere.
It's so easy to find. I mean, you just have to walk outside, and it's just beautiful.
Yeah, and our aesthetic, I think, is really, we like things that last a long time. Obviously, we're big on copper. We're big on creamy whites and stuff like that. What's fun about Kendall Laurent's house, you call it the yin and the yang at the shop. You
It's different because the
That's more in book
Atelier in Beaune is very white and bright, and the Woodland House, which is all in book 2, is very nature oriented. It's a lot of stone, a lot of iron, things like that. And so we kind of just these places, they both complement each other, but they're totally different in a way. But it's kind of like we let the spaces speak for themselves too. And just the architecture there is so neat and beautiful. It's not hard to add to that and kind of make it aesthetically pleasing. So, and we want these places to feel warm and inviting. That's important.
Well, and we actually got asked the question last night, is like, who did the design? Well, there is no design. It's just like, wow, let's put this here. And it's just in something that we just gravitate to, depending on one of our big projects we just did, well, we're still working on it, it's almost done, is the barn. So we're opening or starting a barn kitchen, which, again, if you would have went back 17 years and said, one day you guys are going to have this beautiful barn kitchen in Burgundy, it would have been crazy.
Yeah.
But that's the next thing. So that's really fun. Yeah. So we have another teaching space there.
Do you think you'll add additional instructors?
No.
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 Okay.
We're going to tackle it all.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a lot of work for the two of you. The
It is
more
a
and more
lot.
popular you get, I would imagine, between the emails, the media requests, everything.
It is. I think it's important. Yeah, you have to figure out where you can outsource in certain areas. And yeah, we're still figuring that out. But yeah.
Okay.
We like the joy. We don't want to give that part up.
No.
And part of the fun, I think, for the guests that come is they're often surprised. Well, this is the team. Sometimes Luke on Wednesday, if he doesn't have school, he's helping. But this is it. There's not a big backup.
Yeah.
Let's talk about food a little bit more because I feel like all we talked about was gougere earlier. There's way more to it. The photos of the farmers market in Beaune is unbelievable. What are some of the specialties of that region?
Oh, there's so many good things. I mean, right about now, spring has sprung. It's beautiful, so we'll be getting white asparagus. Probably it's already started since we've left. Gary gets strawberries are on their way, wild garlic, green garlic, just so many beautiful things.
Well, on the market in Beaune, it's probably one of the most beautiful markets in France, and we're lucky it's all year. We have to admit, in winter, you get a lot of root vegetables, but it's a beautiful market. And what's really nice about that specific market is it's still very authentic in the fact that the farmers themselves who are growing or producing the food, they're also selling the food. So it's not like you have a co-op situation. It's very real. Mm-hmm. So that part's really fun, too.
We've gotten to know all the producers over the years, and so we go, to this guy for certain things, and then this lady, she does this really well. So we kind of know when to go to which person, at what point in the market. So it's fun to do. Saturdays never get dull.
The cheese photos always wow me.
Yes.
Yes.
Have a thing for the cheese, yeah.
Are there any cheese specialties of the region?
Oh, my gosh, there's so many. There's, you have your famous époisse, which is the cheese and the little
classic
wooden
stinky cheese.
Yes, that you have to eat with a wooden spoon. It's just part of it. It's great. There's a brie à Savarin, which they do with truffles, the Burgundy black truffle. You can get it without, but why would you? What other ones do we have? There's so many good ones. Hess's cheese de Lys de Pommard, which is, it's kind of like a creamy cow's milk cheese. And they take the grains of the mustard seed, some vinegar. So it's really got that Burgundian mustardy kick to it.
A little tang. And Jan's cheese.
And we have a fabulous cheesemaker, Jan. We profiled him in the first book, the sheep guy. Really nice younger guy. And he does his own sheep cheese, which has really gotten famous now in the area because all the fancy restaurants have it and stuff. But yeah, so there's so many good ones.
Have you impacted the economy of Beaune?
It's all building relationships and complementing each other for the community because that's what we really love. That's why we don't recommend one specific hotel or we don't set that up. We're like, well, how would you like to stay? You can stay here. This is also very nice here. So I think that's been good. Yeah. And especially as Americans coming in, starting in an unmarked building, it's pretty amazing that they're like, thanks, this is really great. So that's fun.
And even just with the restaurant community, which is tiny there, but it's great too. And just recommending all of those wonderful places to eat outside of, their time with us. And it's a nice community to live in.
Well, and I also think, too, what's nice with the program, the classes that we do, is you're not just visiting, you're kind of really in it because, go see Lolo and Rika and have this. It's going to be fantastic or over here. And so they kind of get to meet the people through us in a more
it's more immersive.
Immersive kind of way, which is nice.
Yeah.
Have you noticed in the 17 years you've been doing this, the farmers, the producers, the cheesemakers, the winemakers, are young people being attracted to those professions in the region?
I think, COVID, we all had a really hard time, obviously. We lost quite a few farmers at the market, which was really sad. But you see every once in a while some new ones popping up. And I think what's really nice about France is you still have that market culture, which is still so strong. And we hope that never goes away. And that's why we say it's so important to go to the farmers market and support those people because you don't want that to go away. I think we're really lucky to have that. And I hope more and more younger people do that. But yeah.
That's such a great point. Just a good reminder that if you love those things, you have to support them. Mm-hmm. At Jubilee, we did a panel on independent restaurants, and it's the same thing. They're the lifeblood of every neighborhood, but if you don't support them, they do go away.
Yeah.
Yes.
These are fragile things.
Yeah.
Okay, want to talk a little bit about each of you some more. What have you learned about yourselves in this process? This has been so adventurous.
Oh.
I don't know if you look at it like that, but from the outside.
Well, I think for me, first of all, if you would have told me even maybe a month before I was going to move to France, born and raised in Arizona, I was going to live and die, have French family and French grandchildren, I would have said, you're completely mad, But I think what was really fun is, for whatever crazy reason, I was willing to give it a shot. I think that gave me a lot of confidence. I think the fact that we've been able to build this very unique and special brand that is so unique because you can't double it because it's really about family and it's about us. that's been fun to see that that's actually, you stick with something long enough and you're going to, like Kendall always says, there's no straight line to what you want. You just got to keep dodging and weaving. So I think that's been good. And I think, for me, the grandma, the family thing has been huge. Having Kendall as a young mom and, seeing Kendall and Laurent with their kids and their family. I mean, it just makes me so proud.
Yeah.
No, we don't want to make you cry.
Don't do it.
On air. But what's interesting? You share a pub day with Barbara Costello, who is Brunch with Babs.
Oh,
I don't know if you saw the other books that came out on the same day as yours. A lot of special authors on the day that your book came out, the two of you included, of course. Barbara was on the show a few months ago, and she has such an interesting story. Her daughter pushed her to go on TikTok, and everything just took off for her. I think she had said that when she turned 50, she remembers looking in the mirror and thinking her best years were behind her, and had no idea that in her 70s she would become this sort of like grandma to the internet.
Yeah.
So it's just such a powerful reminder that, to just be bold and take chances.
Well, you have to be bold, and especially, in my case, in anybody who's younger than 50, I always say it's going to get better. When you get to 50, it's everything. Right after 50, it gets better. You're in a different mindset. And then you get to step back and kind of observe and, wow, we accomplished this. This was great.
Yeah.
So,
Kendall, how has it changed you?
I think just in general, just realizing, you don't have to have all the answers. I was, always thinking you have to have things figured out and
Before
have
you
a
make a
path.
jump.
But no, sometimes you just got to jump and just trust that your instinct is right, and that if you follow it, it'll lead you to the right moments and the right opportunities. And I think that's a good lesson for anybody.
We always ask the guests if they're good at trusting their guts, and it sounds like you definitely are.
I think we're pretty good at that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do either of you have a motto or a mantra?
well, we kind of have a funny one together. We always say, spread the joy, the butter's optional, because we use a lot of butter.
It's true.
Since you two have to be over at Williams-Sonoma to see your fans who all want to meet you, we'll just do the last question on the speed round. If you had to be trapped on a desert island with one food celebrity, who would it be and why?
Stanley Tucci.
Oh, that's a good one.
Thanks.
Tell us why.
Well, first of all, I just think he's absolutely adorable. And I just like he just seems so real and so full of life. I just think he looks like an amazing guy.
And you'd have cocktail hour every night.
Yes,
it would
and he
be
makes
fabulous.
a mean martini. I love that.
Oh, it'd be perfect.
It'd be perfect, wouldn't it?
Yeah. That's a hard one. I need to think about that for a minute. Everyone says Julia, right?
I mean, the number one answer is probably Ina,
Really?
followed by Anthony
wow.
Bourdain.
I was thinking Anthony. You could have said Alice, too. She's lovely.
Yeah. Alice is pretty good.
Yeah, you get a lot of information from her.
Maybe Alice. I think so.
Alice Waters.
Yeah.
Mhm. Tell us
Yeah.
why.
I just think she's inspirational. And everybody, knows she is. And she's done some pretty great things, I think.
Well, and she's also done so many great things about the sort of thing that we talk about all the time. Because even as a really young person in me, I mean, poor Kendall had to listen to all that stuff forever. I was obsessed with that stuff. And, it kind of formed how we cook, even before we were doing it professionally. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think we've always been excited about
And
that.
just obviously people who have so much wisdom, you want to be able to be around that and, learn from that too.
So Marge is looking to have a good time on the island.
Yeah.
And Kendall,
I'm looking
you're
for-
looking for more educational.
Exactly.
experience.
Or different phases,
That
right?
sums everything
Yeah.
up. You've just met the co-founders of the Cooks Atelier.
I love it. Well, thank you both so much. I hope the next time I see you is in Bone.
We do too.
A
We hope
bientôt.
so. A bientôt.
A bientôt.
That's it for today's show. Thank you to Cartolina for their support and to Marjorie and Kendall for stopping by. If you enjoyed this episode, check out past shows with a few folks who are mentioned on this episode, like Alice Waters and Brunch with Babs. Our theme song is by the band Tra La La. Joseph Hazen is the studio engineer at Newsstand Studios. Our producers are Catherine Baker and Jenna Sadu, and our editorial coordinator is Sophie Kais. Thanks for listening, everybody. You're the bomb.